we would go online and we would find like a retail version of an item. I would always say, well, I bet that same dress is on Poshmark for $150. But that manual process of going to every single secondhand website and trying to find the exact item that I was looking for was extremely cumbersome and time consuming. We built a Chrome extension where as you were shopping, you could click on it and it would find you these secondhand alternatives. And then we also started to layer in additional utility. So now we show like the resale value of items. We really see Phia as a helpful shopping advisor. Like before you click on us, the question that it says is, should I buy this? And so we're trying to help people answer that question.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the AI Download, your weekly show that looks at the future of AI, culture, and being human. I'm your host, Shira Lazar. Now, before we get into the episode today and our special guest, a big thanks to our series sponsor, Hivelighter. They are the tool that helps creators and founders cut through the noise. It turns scattered research links, PDFs, and notes into clear summaries and actionable insights. And it's become one of my favorite ways to stay ahead without feeling overwhelmed. Check them out at hivelighter.ai. Now, today I'm joined by a very lovely and brilliant guest, Sophia Kianni. She's the co-founder of Phia and co-host of the Burnout podcast with Phoebe Gates. Sophia operates at the intersection of activism, sustainability, fashion, AI, and tech. And that's really what we get into in this conversation. Plus how, as someone who's Gen Z, she's thinking about building a company, community, and the future of experiences in the age of AI, in an age where there is so much noise and it's hard to break through. But how do you do that and build a company? Well, she gets into that. And I just truly appreciate her perspective on all of it. So enjoy the conversation. Sophia, thank you so much for being on. It's been a while to put this together because we're both two busy ladies rocking it. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited. I'm a huge fan. So this is going to be awesome.
It is. You're doing such cool stuff. So, I mean, we're going to talk about it all. We've got the activism, we got the fashion, tech, entrepreneurship. We'll be diving in. And of course, AI, because this is the AI Download. So I guess, how do you bring together all these worlds that you're in? Because you've done such incredible stuff over the years that you've been working, I guess, or just existing, even starting out when you were really young.
Yeah. I mean, what was really incredible for me is that when I think about the advances in technology that we've had, so I actually went to Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology, which is like one of the best STEM high schools in the country. And so I always was extremely interested in STEM, really as something that was the underpinning of the work that I knew I was going to do that really had the potential to change the world. And I went on to Stanford. And when I was at Stanford, that's when ChatGPT first came out, when everyone started talking about OpenAI. And it was very clear to me that we were in the middle, really, of a platform shift. And that really has been able to be integrated into so much of the work that I've been doing. So whether I think about Climate Cardinals, my nonprofit, one of our first really big partnerships was we actually worked with Google to leverage some of their newest translation skills that were really powered by AI to automate a lot of the work that we were doing. Or with Phia, where it's really we're using AI to make it more efficient and easier to find the right item that you're looking for when you're shopping. There are just so many different applications. But from the time I was in high school, I always really understood that leveraging technology in the right way allows society to advance in extremely, extremely incredible ways.
I'm happy you say that because as someone that's so passionate about climate, I feel like there's a lot of tension between the sustainability community and the tech community a lot of times. Do you feel that way? And how do we overcome that hump?
100%. The way I really think about it is with AI, we have essentially let the genie out of the bottle. This is a fundamental shift that has come into society. And now the onus is really on us to think about how we can leverage it as thoughtfully as possible in really incredible and proactive ways. And ultimately, the way that I think about it is that the really great thing that you can do with technology is you can automate processes to become more efficient. And if things are more efficient, they should use less energy and they should be less wasteful. And even when I think about it through the lens of what I'm doing at Phia, for example, right? If you think about the fact there are enough clothes in existence right now to dress the next 6 generations of humans, the entire clothing production cycle from front to end is extremely wasteful because you are making too much stuff and people are buying the wrong stuff and they are returning at exceptionally high rates. The entire industry front to back is completely broken. And so by leveraging technology to make it far more efficient to make it easier to find like secondhand items, for example, where there's like an 80% carbon reduction compared to buying an item new. Like there are so many ways in which you can actually leverage technology to make systems more sustainable and more resilient. And so I'm just very excited about the opportunity to leverage all of this new technology in ways that I do think will make it possible to really live like in a more sustainable way.
Yeah. And we do need examples of this, and leaders, especially young leaders, I mean, who are deep in and still are. You're obviously still a climate activist and you've worked with Greta Thunberg, but like those folks hate AI, right? So I do like, do they still talk to you? Does Greta Thunberg, when she like, you're working in AI tech, I can't talk to you now. That's how it feels.
I think everyone has their own role in activism. I think everyone can be an activist in their own respect, and everyone is really important for pushing forward systems change in the areas that they care the most about. So we need people who are disruptors, people who are pushing us forward and who are forcing us to think critically. I think that type of dialogue and discourse is really, really helpful and really important in society. And I think that on the same token, we need people who are also thinking through like constructive solutions, who are thinking through their own lens of systemic change. And we need all of this type of dialogue and discourse. I think all of it is equally valuable. And I want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity, like including myself and the people that I work with, to like really advance their view on like how we're going to have societal progress.
I totally agree. That's why I have these conversations. So yes, I'm on the same page as you on that. I want to get into Phia and your company. I do want to then also backtrack a bit, because you were in college when AI was kind of just starting. How is this generation looking at AI on the school level and like Gen Z and everything?
The point of school is that you are able to learn. And so by taking out the parts that are fundamentally like very inefficient and that take a lot of time, and to be able to focus on like the actual synthesizing and the learning and like the work that is really valuable, that to me is extremely intellectually exciting. And so I definitely do think that there is an opportunity. I mean, I forget how much time I used to spend on citations. It was definitely too much time. And so
Yeah.
for stuff like that to become much more efficient is really, really exciting. So I am looking forward to see like how for this kind of new generation of students that plays out for them.
What's the technology represent the generation? I'm always interested in how you are seeing right now social and the internet. You know, I just wrote a newsletter about the dead internet era and like slow social media. And really that's being led by Gen Z. And so I guess, yeah, what is your take on that right now and how AI is impacting all of that?
It's definitely been really interesting to me to see how a lot of content has started to become very similar, because obviously if you're using AI to like produce and orchestrate, I mean, even if you think about the whole concept of virality, it is inherently kind of engineered where it's predictable. Like there are algorithms that underpin a lot of this stuff. So it's very interesting because I love marketing. Like I love communication, and so much of it really is something that is fun and whimsical and something that I deeply like just enjoy ideating on. And so it has been really interesting to see that there are definitely portions of content creation that become a lot more efficient, where you can kind of objectively assess and understand like why certain content is performing really well and why other content isn't. The thing that I don't have an answer for, that I'm just genuinely really interested to see like how it plays out, is just when you have an era where you can essentially engineer virality, or like you can really understand virality, like what does that mean for creators? Like what does that mean for the type of content that like companies and individuals are putting out? Like does that all become the same? And it will be really, really interesting to see. I definitely don't think like we're anywhere near there yet. But it definitely is something that I do think will continue to like influence the type of content that we end up interacting with.
Yeah, and how much we're on social and online. I guess, yeah, like I was just thinking about generationally, how different generations approach these things and think about how they're connecting online, right? And if so much is online, do we go offline, right? Is that something that you're seeing or from your peers, like, and how you're using this tech?
Definitely. I don't know if you've seen, there's this creator that I follow, Cat GPT. I started following her recently and I love her content because
Yep.
I totally think that this whole idea that we need to also spend more time offline and just prioritizing real, true, genuine connection is extremely important. And so people like her also definitely are indicative of the fact that with all of this kind of platform shift happening online, I do think people are going to be more excited about the opportunity to also like prioritize in-person relationships. I mean, even when I think about my own company, something that's extremely important for us is like in-person collaboration. Like we are in the office 5 to 6 days a week. We have definitely tried to shy away from remote work because we do think that like in-person touch points are irreplaceable. And that's something that I'm also very interested to see like how that's going to play out because I am definitely an advocate for, and I do think community building and like in-person touch points are really important for human interaction. And especially with the algorithms becoming like extremely sophisticated. I mean, the whole goal is to keep you online for as long as possible. And I don't think that's very healthy. And I do think there needs to be like bounds and limits specifically for young people of how much of their time they're spending online versus in person.
Let's talk about Phia, the company. This is your love, your focus, your baby. You started this company with Phoebe Gates, Bill Gates' daughter, and you were roommates. I mean, how cool to start a company and a lot of pressure, I would say. I mean, do you feel pressure starting a company with a Gates?
Yeah, I mean, for me and Phoebe, it was honestly amazing because we were randomly paired roommates. And so we bonded over like Phia and our love for fashion and shopping as friends and then as peers and then as two girls who were taking a college entrepreneurship class together where the whole goal was to understand like how could we leverage AI and technology towards an industry that we fundamentally felt was going to change as a result of the platform shift. And that to me was really important as an underpinning for we were two people who were extremely excited about a problem and who were just looking for a solution for ourselves. We didn't go into this class thinking that we were going to leave school, move to New York City, build a team of 15 people, fundraise. Like that was never on the initial roadmap. It was very authentically, hey, let's start working on this together. Let's see what happens. And then our Stanford professor actually really loved the idea and loved what we had initially built. And she was the one who gave us our initial grant and basically gave us a push to say, hey, this has the potential to really become a true like company and is a huge opportunity. And if this is something you guys are excited about, I would love to give you like your first grant in order for you guys to move to New York City, hire your first real employees, and to understand that this is something that could actually come to fruition in a business capacity. So those incremental step functions along the journey were really critical in kind of adjusting our lens from, hey, these are two friends who want to solve a problem together, to now ultimately being co-founders and business partners, both in Phia, the Burnouts, which is the podcast that we host, and also just one of my best friends.
That's the moment where you're like, school was meaningful. I'm happy I did this class. It wasn't a waste of time because then it led to this. That's one good case study for folks who maybe
100%.
but everyone teach their own. You know, school is not for everyone. But that said, so what was the vision originally for Phia and where is it now?
When we were first building Phia, the very first problem that we started with was, so we just, taking a step back, we're basically looking at this as an industry, e-commerce, that fundamentally hasn't really changed in the last few decades. Like the way that I shop, the way that you shop is pretty much the same as it was like 20 years ago. What's really interesting is, okay, how can we apply AI to make it suck less? Just quite frankly, like it sucks. It's time consuming. It's super inefficient. How can we make that easier and more streamlined? So getting more granular, we thought about what are some of the most like tangible pain points that we experience when we're shopping. And we very naturally landed on this pain point where Phoebe and I both had the same experience of we would go online and we would find like a retail version of an item. So let's say I would go online and I would find like a $250 Reformation dress. And then I would always say, well, I bet that same dress is on Poshmark for $150. I bet it's on Depop for $100. I bet it's on The RealReal for $120. But that manual process of going to every single secondhand website and trying to find the exact item that I was looking for, in a lot of cases unsuccessfully, was extremely cumbersome and time consuming. So that was like basically our first idea was how can we take this? And then so we validated this in a like 30 to 50 user interviews where we asked other people, is this a pain point you experience? Do you also do this? And then basically once we had that validation, we built a Chrome extension where as you were shopping, you could click on it and it would find you these secondhand alternatives that were as close as possible to that original item that you were looking at. So that was the very, very first basically product that we built. And since then, we've really iterated a lot. And one of the biggest things we learned was essentially like it's like 81% of apparel spend is actually happening on mobile. So most people shop on their phones, which I actually realized I definitely do a lot of shopping on my phone. And so we decided to shift our focus and really focus on mobile as a platform, which is why we adjusted and made a mobile extension, like a Safari extension, and deprioritized the desktop extension. And then we also started to layer in additional utility. So now we show like the resale value of items because people also want to be able to see like, am I actually purchasing something that's higher quality? What are the materials of the item? What are the reviews? So we started to add in all of these additional pieces of information through the lens of we really see Phia as a helpful shopping advisor. Like before you click on us, the question that it says is, should I buy this? And so we're trying to help people answer that question.
How many years has that been? I feel like a lot has happened in a short amount of time.
It's probably been now two years, but
Wow.
we didn't officially launch the company until 7 months ago.
And then I think 700,000 users.
Yes.
How much did you raise?
We raised $8 million.
Badass. Congratulations. So with all of that said, how do you integrate AI into this? How does the AI play into this app and experience?
So what's really exciting for us is that we essentially have all of these partnerships now where we work with, let's say, like secondhand retailers, and they give us access to their data feeds. So for example, we work with eBay. eBay exposes their catalog to us. And so we're actually able to ingest those feeds and then work essentially on this unification process where if you're looking at an item on, like, let's say Revolve, and we see the image of the item, the subtext of the item, the title, all this key information, we basically are able to do this unification process where it's like we have our data pipeline, all of the items that we've basically like indexed. We now have over like 300 million items that we've indexed. So we've been able to essentially decrease our latency when we were doing like a lot of scraping and leveraging APIs from around like 8 to 10 seconds to now under 2 seconds. So it's far faster and also much more accurate to essentially perform that process. And then in addition to that, we do a lot of other things such as calculating the resale value. So looking at the most comparable secondhand items that are listed and understanding like what they're selling for to be able to kind of approximate for you what the secondhand value of that item is. That's something that people have been really excited about. So all of these different features honestly have been 100% supercharged by not just AI, but like just generally like machine learning. And for us, like the future really is in leveraging this information on like a personalization level. And that's why we're looking at like, click-through rate and that type of information to really understand and like better rank what items are most attractive and interesting to users.
Yeah, I think people realize this, but don't realize just throwing AI onto a company isn't going to make or break the company right now, especially now, right? Where there's so many smaller companies or startups that are raising against that. And then a big company comes in and just can make it in a moment. Is that something you're worried about? And like, what advice do you have for other founders navigating that, where you could spend time building something and a big company could come in and just do it?
100%. I think for startups, it's so important to think about defensibility. And we think about defensibility in many different ways, but I would say for us, one of the really important things has just been building infrastructure, partnerships, and relationships that help to make you more sticky. So we now have over like 5,100 brand relationships where we're getting that like SKU level data. We're building those relationships so that we can actually offer like unique offers and opportunities to our users. And so doing that legwork, and then also I would say like as a consumer tech company, you are going to live and die by distribution. You need to be able to acquire like hundreds of thousands and then millions of users at a very low CAC. Otherwise, it's very hard to run the business efficiently. And so that's been something that we've spent a lot of time working on, really has just been community building, essentially. And so Phoebe and I now have our podcast, The Burnouts, where we've now, since we've launched, reached over 200 million views, like completely organically, specifically of like these incredible women across the US who are really our target demographic when it comes to Phia. And so being able to open source our learnings, to be able to share with them, build with them in real time, and to really iterate alongside them has been a huge, huge learning for us to make sure that we're being like nimble, agile, and actually building our features in a way that's exciting for our target users.
We all know content is king, right? We all know it's so important, but then content companies even get, I think, minimized sometimes because it's very service-based. It's not quote unquote scalable. But I think that tech companies and content need to work more together and then can create something like this, which I do also see as a trend of like founders coming out from the shadows and being more voices, right? And creators. And then you connect with you and Phoebe, and then I want to connect with the company. It all goes hand in hand.
100%. I mean, it's definitely a really interesting skill to learn to sit in front of a camera and put yourself out there. However, people want to buy from people. People don't want to buy from companies. If you even think about Phia, it's Phoebe and Sophia. We put our two names together. And so that's why for us, it has been really important to really try and embody who is the Phia shopper? Why did we build this? And what problem are we trying to solve? That makes it so that like we're doing our own marketing. And I would definitely encourage like any other founders, anyone else who is building something, to put yourself out there and to share your story, because it makes it so much more exciting for someone to want to actually buy in and like understand and use your product if they can truly understand the underlying motivation for why you built it in the first place. And that's definitely something that we've really, really leveraged.
Yeah, I think that in the age of AI, everything could be faceless and just, I don't know, just be happening, right? Constantly.
Look, we were just talking about ChatGPT, right? And her physical phones. That's the perfect example of, I don't think that it's possible for these businesses to be successful unless they have some sort of underlying driving force of a person, a persona, a community that really allows people to feel emotionally invested and connected. Even if you look at Duolingo and the bird, I mean, all of this stuff, tech is going to become commoditized. And so that underlying distribution community, like that does end up being the moat and something that's really, really important for people to actually prioritize.
Yeah. First, I do want to ask you, fashion overall, and you kind of shared based on Phia and what you're building, but where do you see AI changing the fashion industry from creation to possibly discovery to help people express themselves?
When I think about fashion, I mean, even honestly, just like zooming a little bit out and thinking just in terms of some of the stuff that is exciting to me, you see all this opportunity to, I know like with the new Adobe, like the Firefly image model, you can basically do virtual try on and you can do all of this cool stuff where before it was always very hard to really like visualize and conceptualize like what is this item going to look like on me. So things like that I am definitely like very excited about of, can I actually try on and see what something looks like on me before I make a purchase. And then I would also say that for Phia, one of the features that we recently integrated that I'm very excited about is you can actually put in your measurements and then we will dynamically suggest the size to you that we think that you should order, because we're also ingesting like the catalogs from our retailers. So we're getting all of that information about like the SKU measurements and dimensions and such. So we can in under 2 seconds. I mean, I don't know if anyone else struggles with this, but I'm always zooming into the fine print to try to understand, you know, am I a medium? Am I a small? I have no idea. And so that's something else too, where it's like removing that friction is super important, especially because return rates are skyrocketing right now. I mean, people are just buying things, they're returning them, they're getting rid of them. That's why we have all these issues and like things are ending up in landfills. So I'm definitely really excited for us to continue to leverage technologies in ways like that hopefully make people feel more confident and informed before they actually make a purchase.
Yes, I'm looking at the clueless share moment, and I agree. I've been using ChatGPT to help me get dressed, which sounds really weird to say. I'll just be like, here's my shirt or the pants. Like I have that one main piece, and then what do I build around it? Because I used to get so overwhelmed getting dressed. And I will be doing a video about that shortly because it's very helpful.
I'm so curious to see them. It's so cool.
I know. And then I'm all about secondhand. I get overwhelmed at thrift stores. So for me, something like Phia, or I do Rent the Runway, and then being able to try it on and then buy it afterwards, but knowing that you're buying it at a discount. Also, you're not just supporting this new consumerism, I think is really important as well. We talked a little bit about at the top, the climate space that you've been very deep in. So where do you see AI actually helping sustainability versus where it risks being just another marketing buzzword?
It really goes back to what I was saying before around the fact that all of these different systems are incredibly inefficient. And so ways in which we can leverage technology to essentially like shortcut a process that otherwise would have taken a lot of time, and also to be able to reduce waste. Those are things that I'm really excited about. Specifically on the end of even when you look at brands and kind of like what we had touched on, the thing that I'm really excited about long term is that brands really should be using technology more thoughtfully for how to forecast and accurately really understand like how many units of an item they should make, or actually things should be made on demand so that you're not in a situation where people, you have all these millions and millions of garments that no one is buying that then end up being artificially discounted, or even worse, they end up being burned. That is super inefficient. And so that's where I think there's actually a huge opportunity for innovation, is really on the supply side and also more on the forecasting side, so that even before we get to the buying layer, which is really where Phia's hyper focused on right now, before you get to the buying layer, we actually need to do a lot of work on like solving the supply side issue, which is inaccurate forecasting and actually the manufacturing of garments that are not built sustainably to last and endure. I mean, if you think about the Shein tank top that is $10, that is going to end up all tattered and as a rag in 6 months. And then it's going to end up landfill, and it's made of plastic. And so all of this stuff is things where I do think technology has a huge opportunity to play a role to make sure that we are actually building and manufacturing things in ways that have sustainability through the lens, and then all the way through the end of like creating things for a circular economy in mind, where we can actually track the items that people are buying, help them to categorize them, and then have it ready so that they can resell it in the future when they no longer want it, or even donate it. All of that by actually streamlining and having the tracking process in place will allow us to be able to put all these systems into place. So I think from like a fashion lens, that's all stuff I'm very, very excited about.
That is sexy, right? Like I feel like these conversations, I'm like, yeah, like I'm all pumped, but 3D printing will be huge, right? Because you could just print, like the idea of like making something on demand and getting it instead of like printing how many versions, or how many versions of it. There's so many inefficiencies right now. And yes, while AI, we need to find ways to use it without killing and hurting the planet. We could also use AI to solve some of those problems. So it goes hand in hand. I did a podcast with Ime Ndolo, who's a creator of New York, who has a nonprofit and really into sustainability and climate. And she's the first to say, like, I don't want to get left behind. And like, we could use this for good. So we need more of those voices while asking the big, important questions. So let's talk about burnouts, your podcast, because we've talked around it, but you have this awesome podcast, The Burnouts. Very smart. One, what was the inspiration behind that? Have you two been burnt out before?
So the whole point of the podcast, so Phoebe and I started this podcast right before we launched the company. And the whole idea was that specifically when you are a young person in your 20s, there is so much that you need to figure out. You need to figure out your job, your career. You need to maintain a touch point with your friends and your family. You're navigating very serious relationships with romantic partners for the first time in your life. And you're supposed to juggle all of this, right, without burning out. And so that was really like the late night conversation that Phoebe and I were having, is we felt like there was a really important missing space in the media landscape in terms of a dialogue about what it's like to be a young person coming of age, really trying to be hyper-focused on making a name for yourself and having this successful career, while also counterbalancing all of these other things that are inherently like very, very important in your life. And so we started the Burnouts really with the goal of bringing on other incredible entrepreneurs, other incredible, really like business leaders and media personalities who we felt like had done such a good job of being able to do all of this great stuff, hopefully without burning out, or by learning how to like get over burnout when like life had thrown challenges at them. And so we now have had incredible people come onto the podcast, like share more about their journey, share more about the work that they've done, and really open source essentially like what are their secrets to success and how can really like the younger generation apply that as they look toward building a successful life. So it's been a really, really like fun and gratifying experience to essentially in real time debrief the learnings that we're having as we're building our company with people who really, really inspire us. And we want our audience to also be able to learn from them.
Yeah, it's so smart. Have you met an entrepreneur that hasn't been burnt out? Please.
I think it's something we always ask guests is either have you been burnt out before? And if so, like, how did you get over that? Or, what's like your remedy or your like recipe for getting over burnout? And I do think it's been really interesting to really see that there's this quote I always return back to, which essentially is that burnout is not caused by working too hard. It's by working without feeling momentum. And so when I think about Phia and the burnouts, I mean, I've never worked harder in my life, right?
Yeah.
I'm in our office every single day, like 9 to 9. And I do it because I care and because I'm excited. And so I don't feel burnt out because I feel like I can see myself making progress. I can see myself learning. I love the work that I'm doing. And so that's been something really important for me, and a lesson that we've really tried to share with our audience is that the way you avoid burning out is by loving what you're doing. You have to love what you're doing to feel like you're really making progress. And so that's definitely something that's been like really inspiring for me with all the incredible people that we've interviewed is like they love their craft. They love it so much and they work so hard. And that is something really inspiring to me where I wake up every day and I want to make sure that I really love and feel passionate about the things I'm working on.
It is true what you said. If you're giving more than you're getting, you get sucked dry. So that's one. And when you're also pushing against the tide, you're not, it's like you can't seem to get on that wave. That gets tiring. It's like when you're surfing. It can get tiring when you're constantly just going out to and not jumping on the wave. You get stuck. And it does happen to the best of us. So I think these conversations are important. And while the word burnout does get thrown around too these days, so it's not about overusing it or just like attaching yourself to the word when you want to, but really understanding what it means to you and then not getting stuck in that, right? And finding solutions. Anyway, you did talk about how using ChatGPT to break down, and we talked a bit about this, what makes viral videos work. And I saw in Business Insider, you said, quote, AI is how we're going to succeed as a startup. So can you talk about how you've used AI to supercharge creativity and entrepreneurship?
Something that I think is really exciting about the era that we live in right now is that there's all this talk about when is there going to be the first one-man billion-dollar company? Because the reality is that now with AI, you can do the work that would have taken you hours and hours, like weeks and months worth of time as one person by yourself in probably a day or even a week maximum. And so that's something that is extremely exciting to me. And so when I think about our team, when I think about our creativity and our content workflows, I always want to make sure that I am upskilling everyone to the best of my ability with tools that they can use that can just make it way, way easier to do the work that they are doing. When we talked about like Adobe and Firefly for the podcast, right? We're doing so much editing, like all the audio creation, adding in B-roll for videos, all of that. Like you can use all of these amazing, like the Firefly video editor tools, all of these tools that, again, before it would have taken 20, 30, 40 hours to do stuff that now is taking maybe 5 hours max. I want people to get that time back in their day so that they can actually reallocate it to higher leverage things. And so that's definitely something that I deeply, deeply appreciate and I'm very excited about is continuing to understand how we can employ AI in our workflows in a way that makes all of us 10 times more productive.
Do you have any other workflows or hacks that you've just recently discovered? You're like, oh my God, this has been a game changer.
It was actually with the Firefly video editor where we do a lot of stuff for social media for both Phia and the burnouts, where a lot of it is B-roll. So we edit all these different short form clips and stuff. So if you have an image of something, you can actually animate it, or you can just put in like a couple of text to image prompts where you can basically say, I want to see like a melting globe made of plastic, for example, things like that. And then it will generate the B-roll for you. Because in the past, it takes a lot of time if you're editing a video to go online and find like a specific clip. Like I'm looking for a cinematic overview of New York City because I'm talking about something, for example, that would be hard to source and find. But now you can just say that in a couple keywords and then it'll create like videos that are license free that you can essentially insert into your content. So that's definitely been something that's been really, really helpful for us. I mean, you can go and see the burnouts clips. We use like a bunch of B-roll in a lot of them to make it more interesting and engaging. And that's also something that we've seen has been really effective for our clips, is that typically, especially for podcast clips, I mean, I'm kind of nerding out right now, but it's like, right, it's someone talking for 45 seconds and it's kind of boring. People get really bored. And so splicing it up so that there's B-roll about what someone's talking about, like let's say I'm talking about AI and then it's a clip of Sam Altman walking or something, you know what I mean? It's very interesting because we've definitely seen that has dramatically increased the retention and the viewer rate of people on those short form clips, which is definitely something that I think also has been really heavily prioritized for the algorithm in terms of whether or not your video ends up getting pushed to more people to watch.
Yeah, B-roll is definitely a thing. I feel like the overproduction sometimes doesn't help, but there's the underproduction too, and just being aware of where people drop off attention spans, etc.
Yeah.
I guess for you all, where do you draw the line on what you're willing to automate and what has to stay human? Do you think about that?
It goes back to what I was saying before of you have to really love the work that you're doing. And there are parts of my work or other people's work. I mean, right now, probably almost everything could be automated, right? But then what are you supposed to spend your time doing? And where are you supposed to find joy in the processes? That's something I think about a lot, where I love writing, for example. I've loved writing since I was in high school. I used to freelance write all the time at journalism outlets. And so when I think about writing, for example, whether it's writing an email, writing a post, anything like that, I still love to do a lot of that completely manually. And I do not like to use ChatGPT for it because it feels like it loses its soul and its human connection. And I think AI is incredible for writing certain things, but there are still certain things where I'm sure all of us have had an experience recently, or I don't know if you had, where you get a message from someone that's supposed to be really emotional and personal, and you can clearly tell that it's been written by AI. It kind of rubs me the wrong way.
I feel like I'm guilty of that. Of like, what should I, like, it's that discomfort. You're just like, what should I say to not say the wrong thing? And then you just say the wrong thing.
Well, it's the joke now, right? Of all these people saying my boyfriend just broke up with me with an AI text and things like that. I do think it's really important for important conversations or things that you're trying to communicate with people. If you want to make sure it really has your tone and your voice in it, those are things that I appreciate being able to manually write. And then for other boring stuff, if it's really tedious and autonomous and manual, I will use AI any day of the week to be able to manually automate that stuff.
Yeah, it's important to know what that thing is for you. If you imagine conscious entrepreneurship 10 years from now with AI baked into everything, what does that world look like for you?
Well, even if I look at all of these awesome no-code tools now that exist, it's really interesting to me to think about living in a world where I can just have my idea come to life simply by typing in what it is that I want to do. And so definitely a world where we have all of these little mini apps where all the things before where you had to purchase like a subscription for it or had to license the software, hopefully living in a world where I can just in a couple of paragraphs describe what it is that I want added to my workflow and it is able to be created. That is something that will be incredibly exciting, specifically because, again, like I was saying before, the whole point of this is that you can focus your time and energy on things that are higher leverage. You can think about solving harder problems. And so by enabling people to have that liberty of thinking through things like that, I definitely think we will live in like a much more productive society.
Yeah. And where do you see Phia going over the next 5 to 10 years? What is the ultimate goal here?
It really goes back to this idea of the question that we are trying to answer, which is, should I buy this? And the goal is really to be able to enable the creation of these shopping agents that truly know you, truly know your taste and your preferences, so that you're not wasting all of your time trying to find items that are fundamentally misaligned with your preferences, that you are a very high probability going to return, or even worse, like not even going to use at all once you do purchase it. And so that's our goal, really, is to leverage all of these advances, to leverage the brand relationships, our incredible user base, and to build really an interface where you can have this agent that is able to tell you whether or not you should buy something, and actually be able to predict and help you to select the right items that are really attuned to your preferences. That's something that I'm really excited about.
Yes, I just realized, are you worried about the search happening in ChatGPT or all these things? Or are you working with those companies then for yours to come up as a link, right? Because people will be shopping within this now.
100%. So the way that we really think about it is that there's going to be a huge platform shift when it comes to shopping. And a lot of it is going to be oriented in this kind of agentic experience that is currently a little bit impersonal. So when we think about where we're really excited to build an experience, it's also layered in this idea of, specifically right now, for example, right, we're focused on fashion. Fashion is a very fun, delightful activity. We have users who spend hours and hours a day shopping. Like, it is something fun and magical. We don't want to distill the process of buying into something that is mundane and just very black and white. I mean, if you want a blender, by all means, I think that process should be very black and white. But when you think about the process of like having a digital closet, being able to see the things that you've previously purchased, being able to resell those items, being able to style and put those things together, those are the things that we're really excited to be able to enable. You said yourself, like the shared clueless closet. Things like that is the type of experience that we are trying to really build towards, where we are a consumer application layer, and that is fundamentally going to be an incredibly delightful and magical experience that also enables this seamless buying opportunity.
So think about, again, in order to survive this era where search is going to be going away possibly, and everything within these AI platforms, right, is building community, thinking about content and marketing, and thinking about the experience and the experience you're having with that consumer or community member. Are those the things that we should be thinking about?
128%. In an era where it has never been easier to build and ship product, and tech really is becoming commoditized, the two things that matter the most really are distribution and then also data and partnerships. And so being able to form partnerships for us, right, with these brand partners, being able to build a community and a user base that really enjoys using Phia because they feel like they're part of a community. That stuff is all really important, and it builds a sticky and invaluable interface where you can actually build something defensible around it. At least that is our thesis, right? I want to preface, like, I am a 23-year-old tech founder. This is my first go around it, but this is my bet on the space, and I am very excited to see how it plays out.
Well, you are wise beyond your years. Like, I mean, I love this conversation. You are so knowledgeable and so smart, and it's no surprise why you've seen the success, and I hope you see more success. I do want to know what you do to take care of yourself, just as we wrap up, because you're doing so much. There's so much that's possible to do. You're working on huge vision. As an entrepreneur, as a young person, how do you take care of yourself this day and age?
It honestly comes back down again to the importance of community. The reason why I feel so excited and so exhilarated every single day is that I love the people that I work with. I work with people who inspire me, who I find incredibly intellectually stimulating. And then I also have really great friends that I always make sure that I make time for, and also really great family who I'm very excited to see for Thanksgiving, because ultimately, like, the people who are the most productive in life, at least I believe, are the people who are the happiest. And I'm able to stay happy and motivated by spending time with people that I love, who energize me. And I definitely encourage everyone, at least my cure to burnout is always having a great conversation with someone that I love. And I always want to make sure that I make time for that.
Oh my God. You already learned all these lessons at your age. Took me a while. Still figuring it out. Okay. We're going to get into our final speed round. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Favorite AI tool right now?
Probably the Adobe Firefly tools that I was mentioning before.
Most overrated AI trend.
Probably the trend of dumping all of either your context information, like all of your conversations or someone else's conversations, into ChatGPT and then asking it to psychoanalyze, because people don't realize that you bias the responses by asking leading questions. And so I definitely think I've had a lot of friends come to me with evidence then that I don't think is really evidence.
Most underrated AI use.
There's been an AI tool I've been using recently that I just started trying out. I think it's called Fixer AI. Someone on our team recommended it to me. It basically integrates and then learns your tone, and then it helps you to create the first initial draft for your emails. I'm not obsessed with it yet. I'm still writing a lot of it manually, but I do find that having an initial working draft for me has made it faster to edit and send things. So I'm not 100% sold on it yet. I just started using it this week, and it's definitely been interesting. There was a few I was kind of shocked because I thought for a second, did I draft this? And then I realized that it was an AI draft that was created for me, but it was very similar to something I would have just written myself.
Okay. I like Fixer. Got to check it out.
Yeah.
An AI idea you'd build tomorrow if you had time.
Definitely anything related to Phia shopping. All the things that I don't have time for right now, we are going to build in the next year.
And finally, 3 words to describe your relationship with AI.
Pragmatic, optimistic, and ambitious.
Sophia, thank you so much for joining. You are so awesome.
You're
I'm
so
blown
sweet.
away.
This was such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
I loved it. And I think this is for, while you are Gen Z and you own it, this is really for everyone, this episode. So thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate it.
Thank you. I hope everyone uses AI to make themselves smarter and to save time.
Thank you so much to Sophia for being on the show. Check out her company, Phia. Try it out. I'm excited to as well. And of course, her podcast, The Burnouts. All those links in the show notes. And thank you, as always, to Hivelighter for being our series sponsor. If you want a smarter, calmer way to work, a tool that turns messy research into clarity, head to hivelighter.ai to learn more and to try it out. If you enjoyed this episode, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, leave a rating. All of this helps me keep growing the show independently and keep it going, and I truly appreciate it. And of course, you can follow me everywhere at Shira Lazar and check out my weekly newsletter as well, The Alpha. All those links are in the show notes too. And we've got so much more coming your way. So I'll see you next time on the AI Download.